Who was Herobrine? And what actually happened to him? Why is he the way he is today, always scaring us? We recently started a horror mod series where we have one block and we try to survive a bunch of horror mods. But Herobrine's been popping out a lot. So it got me thinking, what really happened to him? Who is he? Is he a possessed Steve? Well, today we're gonna find that out because I found out the untold story of Herobrine. Let me know your conspiracies and let me know what you guys think. All right, comment that down below. Now let's get right into it.
Herobrine casts a long and terrifying shadow over Minecraft's history. His impact so undeniable
I
that
remember
every
being a little
player
kid,
has
I was
heard his name.
terrified to
But
go
what
into
drives
caves.
this powerful and dark creature, and how did he gain his abilities? Discover the tragic tale as we reveal the untold story of Herobrine.
Oh yeah,
A
let's
full
see
moon
it.
rose high overhead as three figures suddenly appeared in a plane. Steve,
Steves?
Alex, and Brian were startled, struggling to remember where they'd just come from.
Wait, one of them is named Brian. People confused it back in the day, Herobrine. They would say Herobrine. Do you guys think that's where it came from? Is he gonna get possessed? Oh my days, let's find out, let's find out.
But they had no time to process their transportation to this strange world.
We have to get out of here, now!
The monsters that populated the field turned to them with delight, lurching toward their new prey. The trio broke into a run, fleeing from the hands and teeth that would see them dead. Terrified
man.
of these creatures they never encountered before,
Brian gonna
unfamiliar
trip?
with the terrain, they soon found themselves in a dense forest, struggling to part the branches. Zombies growled close behind them, and Steve turned as a
Better
spider
run.
leapt into his face.
No.
He punched back out of instinct, his fists flying at any creature that drew too
Come on,
close to him
Steve.
and his friends. Alex and
1-2.
Brian were less courageous, only cowering in terror as the monsters
Brian has
poured
green
down on them.
eyes.
I can't hold them off alone. If you guys can't help, we have to run.
For
How?
reals.
This forest is too thick to walk through!
Brian wordlessly scrambled up through the branches of the nearest tree, attempting to gain some high ground and flee from the horde. His companions soon followed, and
Oh, I thought he was
together
gonna leave them
they leapt from
behind.
treetop to treetop until their bodies could carry them no further. Each of them were still disoriented from their sudden appearance in this
tired?
world, and they carried
No.
severe wounds. Their pursuers grew closer, having climbed to the treetops to follow their prey. Steve,
Zombies,
Alex,
there's
and
no
Brian
way.
huddled together, hurriedly whispering words commemorating their friendship as they accepted their fate. Suddenly, the sun broke out over the horizon, and the monsters that were now within arm's reach halted their pursuit.
There's
the group
no way.
watched in confusion as the zombies caught fire, dying on the
Yo,
treetops or attempting to
they got
scramble into the shade
lucky.
below. The spider's eyes grew glassy, forgetting the bloodlust they'd felt in the darkness of night. Relief flooded their veins as each member of the group watched the sunrise, grateful
Nice.
to still be alive.
This
Nice.
world seems dangerous. We don't belong here, do we?
They wondered
Make a
how they
sword,
were
boy.
brought here, still unsure of where they'd been before.
command
After a moment of
block.
silence, they cautiously rose to their feet and continued their trek over the treetops in search of answers. Three stomachs growled in unison as the group slowly made their way through a jungle. Their searches for fruit in the trees had only provided
Cocoa
inedible
beans.
cocoa pods, and they had no knowledge of how to craft them into something that would sustain them. When they came across a herd of cows, Steve and Alex exchanged a look of dread. Brian,
Gonna have to
however,
kill
eagerly
him.
fell upon the nearest cow, ignoring its cries of pain as he butchered it with his bare hands.
Bro said,
He
"I gotta
hungrily
eat."
devoured the raw meat it dropped.
Oh, God!
Ew.
At least cook it first, Brian!
Ew.
Do you see a stove anywhere around? This is obviously a game of survival. Either you have
That's
what it
true.
takes, or you don't.
Consumed by guilt, Steve and Alex apologized to the cows that they were forced to kill for food. They tried to eat the meat that was dropped, but couldn't bring themselves to eat it raw. They continued
see
walking
Brian back
sluggishly
there?
until the trees parted to reveal a village. The
Nice.
sight of civilization filled them all with hope, and they made their way towards it as quickly as they could
gonna eat
manage.
bread.
Brian entered
Uh-huh.
first, and his face twisted with disgust as he laid eyes on the villagers. Alex and
That
Steve
nose, huh?
took no notice
That
of their
nose.
long heads and big noses. They only begged for help from these strange humanoid creatures. The villagers took pity on the newcomers, sensing that they were different from the other humans that had evolved in their world. After feeding their guests, the villagers agreed to answer any questions the group had for them. Long into the night,
Nice,
they discussed
nice.
the history of this world, how villagers and humans had evolved, how their ancestors crossed their arms in a vow of pacifism, and
How did
how
a
each of the
caveman
monsters that
evolve
plagued the
into a
world came to
villager?
exist. The trio listened closely until it was nearly dawn. Steve and Alex were too enthralled to feel tired, but Brian was unimpressed and lumbered off to bed.
You mentioned that the native humans can craft and build. Can you teach us?
Most villagers at the time had a rudimentary
Yeah, crafting
understanding of
table,
crafting and
Steve.
building, and despite being unable to do it themselves, their pacifist ways did not forbid them from teaching it to others. With the guidance of the villagers,
Nice.
Steve and Alex discovered that they could harvest materials from the world and craft them into a seemingly endless list of tools and blocks.
Yeah,
Their
buddy.
sense of wonder grew more each day, and the villagers assured them that the humans could teach them even more. Brian couldn't
Wait till they
understand
find
his
out
friend's
about the Ender
fondness for
Dragon,
these
right?
ugly humanoids and their inconsequential knowledge of this world. All he could think about was leaving the village and finding a way back to where they belonged. But Steve and Alex had lost interest in their former lives.
If we can't even remember our old lives, then we probably weren't very attached to them. Why not start something new here? Aren't you fascinated with this world, Brian?
He was
shit
not,
kinda makes
and he
sense,
only
right?
grew increasingly disenchanted with it as his friends felt more at home. Steve and Alex quickly mastered everything the villagers were able to teach them, and began putting their new skills to use to improve the village. Using hoes, they turned soil over in the gardens, increasing the amount of crops that the farmers were able to plant. They protected the village from zombies each night, quickly learning how
Where's
to
the
use
iron
their new
golem?
swords. All the while, Brian stood on the sidelines. He knew that if they remained here too long, they'd lose all interest in returning to where they belonged.
Facts.
His jealousy brewed, souring his feelings about his friends, the attention they were gaining, and the world
Bro
they
just
found
wants to go
themselves
home
in.
and they don't.
Word swiftly spread from villager to villager of the good deeds that Steve and Alex were performing. It wasn't long till they were unanimously recognized as heroes of the village. Steve and Alex were showered with praise from their new friends, giving them great pride in the deeds they accomplished. Not everyone was overjoyed, though.
They're making
Brian
it
watched
rain
Steve and
on
Alex's
them.
antics with disdain. They were losing sight of their goal to get back home as each day passed.
What's so good about the praise of those disgusting things, anyways? This is all just a pointless distraction.
Not wanting to dwell on it any longer, Brian went out exploring away from the
Okay,
village
okay,
and away
okay.
from his friends. As he traveled alone with his thoughts, his annoyance
He's gonna
for this
find the
world
command
only grew.
block.
After a day of adventuring in solitude, Brian stumbled upon a strange-looking block he had not seen before. He soon found himself drawn to the block out of curiosity.
What's he gonna
It was like it
do?
was calling out to him. Brian approached the strange block cautiously and reached out to it to understand it.
What do you guys think? You guys think he got his powers from a command block? Yo, that's gonna be insane. What kind of command do you run? You just go game mode creative or what?
Better. He felt his curiosity mirrored within the object, as if it was sentient and aware of his presence. Examining it, Brian slowly found himself having a better understanding of his surroundings. He felt the synthetic nature of the world, and it dawned on him that he was trapped in a game. Suddenly, a tunnel appeared in the world before Brian, as if his desires to leave manifested into reality. Brian now knew that the strange device he discovered was a command block, an object that allowed him to exert his will on the world. Elated with finding a way to escape this strange world, Brian took the command block and ventured back to the village to share with his friends. When he returned, Steve and Alex were hard at work building a wall around the villagers to protect them from the monsters that spawn at night. Convincing his friends to take a brief respite to listen to what he has to say, Brian's gleeful presentation fell on deaf ears. Steve and Alex were uninterested in its capabilities and unconcerned about leaving this world.
But don't you see? With this, we might be able to find a way to leave this place.
Give me that
Brian,
command block.
I know you're not a fan of the villagers, but try to have some fun, okay?
Yeah, we just got here, and there's so many fun things to see and do.
It feels like they've
we
been
can
there
look
for
into leaving
days.
later. For now, I have to finish this wall before it gets dark.
Brian was at a loss at how quickly they dismissed his discovery.
At least
he
let
argued
Brian
with his friends
talk.
about the
Gosh.
pointlessness of helping the villagers, but was reprimanded for being heartless, as they put it. Besides, why would they want to return to a place they could barely remember anyways? Feeling hurt, Brian once again left Steve and Alex as they continued building their wall.
Would you guys return to a place you guys don't know? Or would you guys stay in Minecraft? I think I would go back, because like, what if I had a good life and the people that I left behind? What if they miss me? You know? What would you guys do? Let me know.
Angry from the argument, Brian left the safety of the village as night was beginning to blanket the sky. Brian was unafraid though. With the command block, monsters no longer scared him. In fact, they no longer bothered him whatsoever. Alone in the darkness, Brian made a decision. He came to the conclusion that his friends needed saving from this beguiling world they found themselves in.
Yes,
the
sir.
command block would be the
They're
way he
brainwashed.
accomplished it.
I'll show them what this place truly is. they'll be begging to leave before long.
Feeling accomplished after aiding their first village, Steve and Alex began a journey across the world, performing similar services for each village they passed through. The residents were grateful for the assistance,
Nice.
as no other humans had come to their aid before. This struck a chord with the two
He
new
just walked
builders,
away.
and
Not
they
gonna
set out
blame
to
that
find
girl.
some of the humans
I
native to
walked
this
away
world.
too.
After following a villager's directions, they arrived at an impressive town that looked significantly newer than the villages that they'd previously seen. The town's residents were less pleased to see the strangers approach, and began charging towards Steve and Alex, with weapons drawn. The duo defended
They got
themselves from the
iron,
oncoming
bruh.
humans, trying to explain that they meant no harm. The battle ended quickly when the leader of the town called a halt to their onslaught.
My apologies, travelers. We haven't had visitors in some time.
The leader explained that among the dozens of human communities that populated the world,
So those
most
guys are
tended to be
nice.
violent. In order to survive, they had to develop defenses. He led them to the town center, the crowd following them out of curiosity. They discovered that they shared a thirst for adventure and a love for their world, and the pair were quickly accepted into the community. Its members taught them everything they knew, from fishing to building with redstone. Over time, they grew a reputation
I need to
as
go to that
valiant
community.
fighters and
I need to
innovative
learn
builders.
redstone.
After discovering that the community was interested in helping nearby villagers, Steve and Alex founded the Builder Clan, which would later become known as the Ancient Builders. The first members of this organization established its goal to explore the world, maintain its ancient structures, and protect villagers from the creatures that threatened them. Steve and Alex continued exploring together as part of the Builders, and soon they began to notice a disturbing trend among the villages that they visited. Villagers were found trapped in cages of iron bars, glass, even bedrock.
How is this possible?
Bedrock is
Isn't
crazy.
this stuff unbreakable?
Alex, you know there's only one person who could have done this.
Steve correctly guessed that Brian had used the command block to torment the villagers that he'd grown jealous of. He'd watched his friend's fondness for these beings
Oh,
grow,
so now they
making
wanna
them a
listen to
central
him,
part
huh?
of their lives,
Okay.
while they left him behind.
Now they
Brian
wanted
no
to pay
longer saw
attention.
them as real beings, knowing that they were fabricated as a part of the game he was imprisoned in. He acted out, exercising his power to trap them within unbreakable bedrock walls. Steve looked around warily and saw Brian hovering just above the tree line nearby, confirming his fears. From a distance, Brian looked at the two heroes, silently swearing to break them out of this world. They believed that their good deeds here made them better than him, but he would shatter that illusion. He turned to fly away, and Steve realized that his old friend had become unrecognizable since they'd arrived in this world.
I'm low-key on
No friend of
Herobrine's
ours would do
side.
this. It's time to stop being sentimental about Brian.
Burdened by the knowledge of Brian's cruelties,
Yeah, they're
the
tripping.
ancient
They weren't
builders,
listening to
led
him.
by Steve and Alex, roamed from village to village to clean up the messes left in his wake. They would free the poor, tormented villagers from the various predicaments they were
Brian's just
subjected to,
misunderstood,
always
guys.
arriving after Brian had vanished.
Oh, thank you, heroes! I've been stuck in there for days!
Angered by what they found, some of the builders wanted to confront Brian. Others, including Steve and Alex, were hesitant to face him directly with the powers he now possessed. Brian watched and waited from afar. Staring, his eyes were unblinking, unnatural. One day, when Steve and Alex
His
were taking
eyes
a
are
break
becoming
away from
less
the rest
green.
of the builders, Brian made his move. Suddenly appearing before them, they could do nothing as they were
Look at his eyes. No, I didn't pause it
teleported
right.
away to
Look at his eyes, guy. Look, guys. His eyes aren't green no more. He's becoming Herobrine. Yo.
Brian's woodland mansion.
What? Where are we? Where did you take us?
Do you like it? I built it myself.
Brian led them through room after room of poorly made furniture replicas,
The
his best
woodland
approximation of
mansion.
items he didn't know how to craft. Now that he had them alone, Brian once again tried to talk some sense into his friends. He had to convince them that the world they loved so much was not real. It was merely an illusion, a
Yep.
game that they were trapped in. He tried to
guys, go
show
back
them how he
home.
saw the game, but they dismissed him as crazy, a conspiracy theorist.
That's messed
It was
up.
evident that they had forgotten all about their lives before they had entered this game world.
Look at this, Herobrine. I'm
Unbothered
spared,
by
right? I
their
got you on my
protests,
shirt.
he
I got you on my
teleported them
shirt.
once again, this time into a prison deep within the mansion itself.
You can't do this! Let us out of here!
You may not see it yet, but soon I will be the hero. Herobrine.
Knowing the builders would not sit idly by, Brian spawned an army of illagers to keep Steve and Alex
I got
secured inside the mansion.
chills.
The builders, having noticed the disappearance of their leaders, started a desperate search to find them. As if wanting to be found, it wasn't long before the heavily protected mansion was discovered. With his friends secured nearby, Brian began the final step of his plan to break free from this world. He climbed to a room high within his mansion, placed the command block on a pedestal, and began the ritual. Though he tried to remain focused, he could sense the builders sneaking through his mansion, trying to break the leaders free from his captivity. As the spell took hold and the power of the command block began to fuse with his body, Brian's eyes began to glow. For the first time, he felt
That's actually dope. That's lit. His eyes lit up, yo. That's how he got his strength. That's how he got his power.
like a hero. Alex and Steve called desperately to their rescuers, but the thick walls muted their cries. The builders walked silently through the mansion until they finally found Steve.
Give it up. You'll never see either of them again.
Herobrine swiftly killed a builder and spawned illagers to take care of the rest. Though they were thoroughly trained in defense combat, they'd never been so outnumbered before. The illagers bore down on the group of builders as their numbers dwindled. One builder heard a faint call for help and bolted from the fight towards the sounds of Steve and Alex. He tore through the wall to find Steve and Alex surrounded by illagers. Without a word, the three of them fled.
Help the others. There's something I have to do.
Steve broke off and began climbing staircases, urgently searching through
Too late,
rooms.
Steve.
Finally,
It's
he
too
found
late.
the command block, removed it, and placed a bucket of lava on the ground. Herobrine teleported into the room, but it was too late.
Don't come a step closer. I'll die in this lava if that's what it takes to destroy
Boy,
this
you
thing.
don't know how to use the
Herobrine
command block.
hesitated, unsure if he was willing to hurt his friend to free them all from this world. Steve threw the block into the lava as the flames began to engulf the room, trapping himself, Alex, and Herobrine in this world forever. Herobrine fumed, furious that without the block, his immense power wasn't enough to free him from this reality. He teleported away knowing he'd never forgive Steve for imprisoning him here, and began his unending search for another command block.
Y'all, I'm out of words. I don't know what to say. Oh my god. Shout out to Lorecraft for creating this dope animation. That's insane. That explains everything. I don't have any more questions. Do you guys have any questions? Oh my days. My mind is blown. That's why he's in the game now, because of Steve. Brian would have been a good guy if they had listened, but they didn't listen. They didn't listen! Well, thanks to Steve, we got Herobrine now. That's why he haunts me all the time now. Oh, Steve, boy, you messed up. You could have been home, chilling, grubbing out some Cheetos and some, like, you know, juice. Herobrine, look at it. Shout out to Herobrine. You'll see it. Yeah, I got that boy on my shirt. Got that boy on the Verzi Nation shirt. Let's go. But y'all, I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you guys thought about this video. And I hope you guys have an amazing day, alright? I'll see y'all on the next animation. Peace out, my beautiful people.